here we are at Wellington's victory. The story so far. Struggling. My initial assault did not work well at all. I didn't cover my way with skirmishers, etc. And French units got basically driven back by this thin line of Allied skirmishers. Learning my lesson, I launched a huge load of skirmishers all over them, taking a lot of my light units out of the way. We're going to see if that can do any better as we test the system out. All right. Okay, so this is interesting. Somebody pointed this out. They didn't point it out at all, actually. They asked a question, but the question pointed it out, and it's obvious that they asked the question because of that. This artillery unit fired at this unit. They asked if they're at the same level. They're actually not. This is a slightly different color than what's here. Now, under the game rules, this would be impossible to see. And in fact, it should be impossible to see anyway. So I should not have been able to fire at that. I've got to mention that I got confused and thought it was somewhere else and answered him wrong. I'm just unable to see the distinction, right? But yes, there would be a ridge line through here. I could not have fired at that unit. Noticing when there's a line of sight issue is going to be almost impossible for me under these kind of circumstances. And this most clearly couldn't have been because this is the descending slope here. He's down below. There's clearly higher ground here. I'm going to leave it as is. Change my response because I thought I had an upslope behind it, going up behind it, but I don't. I don't know what I looked at to see that. Oh well. For the French phase, I'm committing a couple more divisions, 4 more brigades, whatever. Here, from the 1st Corps, the 2nd Division, and here from the 6th Corps, the 19th Division. The intention to put enough force into the key locations to try to clear the way. I've got some good quality units in the 1st Corps. I don't think there's much in that 6th. So that's more of a follow-up force. The good quality units, again, there's a good chance that they're going to need to break down into skirmishers to deal with the terrain issue at La Hassane. French rally phase. Well, I'm going to have to pick through. I got some routed units back there and such not. I try to position a couple heavy units here near the Huguenot in terrain that they can live in. They can't both fit there in line formation, but it gives me some flexibility. I can dissolve them into skirmishers if I need to. Mainly a skirmisher line here. I'm a little worried about that side, and I don't have anything to add there right away. Over here, the skirmisher's still in place, but I've moved up some of the line and artillery into place to help take advantage of the anchor that the Huguenot is providing me. I view that as important, even though I think that the Allies more or less just left it, kind of dangling out there. I think it's better to move forward. We'll see if the French somehow win this. Yeah, we got some concerns about what I'm doing. Over here, I've got the 131. This guy, unfortunately, had run ahead of his command and left a couple of units back here. And I'm starting to pay more attention to the command rules, so I've pulled him back, and that's slowing the advance. And again, you're paying a price for each brigade that you have on the board, but it's like, well, yeah, but I may not get to move them because I can't keep my leaders within range of these units. That's definitely a painful facet. I'm still working my way through. At the very least, I have to reposition my leaders, but I think there are other units that I want to move. Not sure though. Got stuff like this. What the hell's he doing there? Wasn't he supposed to decommission? I thought so. Must have forgotten. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He couldn't have. I'm just checking to see, did I get everyone else? I think so. I don't know. This game is a pain in the ass in a lot of ways. Other things that I didn't show, I'm moving Prince of Orange down here. Now, this is horrible because I'm giving up this whole flank, but I'm not really because the French aren't there. I'm sending Prince of Orange over this way with an intention of activating some of these units and bringing some flanking force into play. At the same time, Wellington's moving over. He's got to try to create a second corps unit. Now, second corps, I don't know where the hell they are. Some of them are back here. This is Hill's command. But I think some of them are in weird places. I seem to remember some up front. Not seeing any. These are ours. It's very hard for me to see between the glare on the counters and my shitty glasses and the dark colors. But almost everything looks like it's reserve until I hit here. Now there's not a lot of second corps. There's just this one little slice, but I really want to get it into play because it's in position to move up and deal with the units I most want to react with. Unfortunately, I can't place him. I can't place Hill on the board using orange. I should have planned better, but everything just looks like a mishmash to me when I was setting up, because I've got, like, you know, R's over here in the front line, then R's back here in the second line, and like it just and second corps is here, but more first corps is over here. It's just like this. Wow, things are not set up for these commanders to be able to command their troops. The movement rates to feel wrong in the following sense. If I have an infantry unit in column just marching, well, no. Okay. If I have cav just marching, if I have an infantry unit in column just marching away from the enemy using grand tactical movement, I can move 8 movement points. The leaders can only move 6 as far as I can see. Are they eligible for grand tactical movement? Because if they are, I've been moving them too slowly. Like, I expect leaders to just be able to move relatively about as fast as the fastest things on the board without any kind of modifiers, without worrying about, hey, am I within 8 of the enemy? And I don't know, there's like other restrictions on this grand tactical, but it's different. It's not road. Any unit. Okay, well, we need the definition of a unit then, because maybe I can run around faster than I was. We do not have an official definition of unit there. Command unit. I think I can use grand tactical movement, which feels, again, you know, totally different from the conventions I'm used to. So I'm going to move those guys a little bit further. In the shock phase, unfortunately, I'm basically out of tea. Need to check on a few things. So I'm going to pause for a bit because it is pretty clear to me we have some shock going on. Among other things, these French columns up here, British line marching up like that, it's just fucking asking for it. But also, I have some significant sized skirmisher stacks, which, yeah, they have a firepower advantage, but why wait? You know, plow in. So I'm going to cheat here. I'm going to go halfway between the Ney versus Wellington rules and the Wellington's victory rules. I'm going to be launching a shock attack here. Normally, by the rules of this system, I would actually not be allowed to perform any opportunity fire because I'm not being attacked from this hex. I think that's ludicrous, but the Navy versus Wellington would give me full firepower. What I'm going to do instead is use half the firepower number, and this one will be taking full firepower when it gets hit. This does not look promising. So I'll be marching against a larger unit. It will get its full defensive strength. That is clear in both rule sets. But I would be marching against a larger unit that's higher morale. Like, my chances of success. Plus, I'm likely to be taking, I'm going to take at least one hit, and there's a decent chance I'll take 2 hits. So I'm going to be down at around 50% at minuses. It's not worth launching the attack in this case. As I look at the situation, I say, oh, I cannot face these units. Even though I moved up to do so, now I'm just going to be trading shots, and I am in column formation. Too bad for me, but I don't want to exacerbate the situation by charging in. Here's the thing. I made the decision here before the fire was made, rather than, before I launched a bad melee attack, before, I took the return fire or the opportunity fire, and then I realized, wow, I'm just screwed. Not really because of the op fire, but I should just not have made the attack. Most systems, you're looking, I'm trying to think, when you make the decision to go in, you're usually not undergoing immediate fire. You've usually, so like in a TSS style system, you've already taken the defensive fire, you've given your offensive fire, now you shock, and that doesn't, engender another round of fire combat within those systems. If you're looking at something like CWB, again, you've already fired before you, you shock during movement, and the fire is kind of baked into the whole system. So it is kind of similar, but you're making the decision of going in, and this may just be me being more clumsy and not being as comfortable with how the shock tables work, how the terrain works and everything in the system. Right now I'm looking at, okay, what happens if I go into here? I'm not going to be disordered because I'm skirmishers. I'm much larger. I am going to have a -2 on me, plus everything might route. But I am going to have a -2 on me for the for the soft cover, and both soft covers are the same. They don't accumulate. I don't know about elevation. Is so hard to see in these. I'm at the same elevation here in the hex I'm considering. So no modifier for that. So that would be -2, but as long as I have enough units, I just automatically route it, which is going to cost 2 hits, and it's going to get me a victory. So I will just plow in there with those large forces. The Allies probably should have withdrawn. This particular dental tool has a little hook on it. Unfortunately, that hook caused me some spillage I'm going to have to fix. But we were successful and got in there. I don't know. I guess I'll do the morale for the unit. Having trouble finding everything I want right away. I got to find morale. That's what goes down, not the committed units. The fact that the counters look the same, I mean, they are the same, is also disturbing there. Technically, if I wasn't playing with any options, these guys would get to continue attacking and just really plow through this entire line of skirmishers. But there is an option that reduces skirmishers to only being able to make one attack, and then they have to stop. And we're definitely going to do it here, because it would have a huge impact. I would just wipe out the entire line. That's a pretty heavy price to pay. If you're not playing with the options and you make this kind of mistake, oops, other one made it in. I'm not here because of that. I'm here because I'm thinking, this is a game with very, very different perceptions and conceptualizations behind it that really, you know, it could very much smash the entire game and make it much, much more, much more decisive one way or another. As it stands, that decision not to withdraw is already costing me quite a bit. And it's just, you know, again, if I wasn't playing with the options, it would have been much, much worse. It is quite possible that you could just roll up an entire line all at once, and just things happen so dramatically. And I don't mind if that happens, you know, due to chance or careful consideration by both sides, and you know, just the weight of force or something like that. But here what it comes down to is just not internalizing how all the systems interact as I'm playing. And it leads me with this, wow, I'm getting a really unlikely opening, you know, in multiple ways. An experienced French player would not have marched up and gotten his unit smacked up, but an experienced Allied player would have pulled his skirmishers back or done something, because they can't stand the weight of all those French skirmishers. But I am learning things like, oh shit, I better not have small lines of skirmishers trying to hold against big piles of skirmishers. That's the extent of the attacks that we've seen. What would have been different? Well, probably this French unit would have rolled up this line at least until they take a hit, which is a 1 in 6 chance each time. This one would have conceivably been able to go into there, but it would have been at bad odds. I'm suspecting, oh shit, I might have had a height advantage or disadvantage somewhere here. Looks like they're the same height, I don't know. Looks like it's this pale yellow in here. Yeah, I would actually have no advantage or disadvantage. So this, if I were, again, playing without the option, I would be able to go into there. I would take heavy fire, i.e. second column here, against skirmishers, which would be a 5 or a 6. If I survive without taking any losses, I would be going at the 100% at 0, which isn't terrible, to be honest. It's essentially an even, you know, I'm evenly sized and evenly morale, and I get even results from it. So there's no real advantage for the defender or anything like that. Or for the attacker, I could see arguments either way. So that feels kind of, you know, I probably wouldn't have considered going in there, but we'll see. And that's going to put me on the reciprocal artillery fire phase. Let's see what we got. Well, I can no longer see this guy. I got some kind of weird lucky shot that killed the leader. Great, whatever. That's not going to happen. Again, I don't have a line here because I'm cutting through this unit. There is an Allied gun here. Can it see? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. I think I'm actually shielded. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Looks like I'm like midway. So descending slope would not be the issue here. What would be the issue? The issue would be that calculation that I would have to make. Let's see what it does. Let's see what it gives on this. If it gives me I should see, I'm going to go with it because I kind of feel like I'm at the midpoint of the hill. right? The line, this is an exceptionally hard one. The line would trace to here. Actually, I think I'm closer. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'd be going back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I think I'm at the. I think I'm over the crest. If you were imagining a crest. Now, let's pretend that crest isn't there, and we're just looking at a moving down. Now, Jason brought up an interesting point, which is that, look, and I've tried to cover this, but you know, you're assuming a monotonically decreasing hill slope. Yes, because what else can I assume? Basically, there is no indication of what the terrain is. And I don't care what your line of sight mechanism is. If you're talking about 10-meter layers in a layer cake situation, you are never going to get the terrain right. Right? There are potentials of little humps and whatnot that are gonna hide things. Should I play that way? That means it's less likely for me to see? Maybe, but there's also situations where it is indeed mostly a gradual descent, where nothing, you know, is really getting in the way, or nothing big enough is getting in the way. And there's no way to tell at 10 meters. I believe this is going to be blocked according to their formulation. But we can see. Either way, I'm shooting. Where the fuck is the LOS rule? Determine which unit is higher. Count the number of hexes from the hex occupied by the higher unit to the last hex, which is higher than the hex occupied by the lower. Okay, so that's going to be from here 1, 2, 3, 4. No, 1, 2, 3. Sorry. It's to this hex. 1, 2, 3. We put a 3 there. Now count the number of hexes from the first hex, which is same level to the as the lower. So that's a 0. That means it will always block. Maybe it's meant to be a 1. Does it say inclusive? Yeah, it says inclusive. That's going to be a 1. Okay. If it was a 0, it would always block. You would never be able to see somebody at the base of a hill. Next, determine the difference of elevation levels. I believe that's 1. It's this pale yellow to this orange. We can look over here, and yes. Keep this total in mind for 4. Determine the difference in elevation levels between the higher unit and the lower unit. Wait, didn't I just do that? Count the number of hexes. Oh, this is the one. The difference in elevation levels, that is also 1. Okay? Multiply the hex count in 3, 1, by the elevation difference, 1. Subtract step 4, which is 1, from the original. This is going to end up 2. That's a positive number. It is going to block visibility by the system provided in here. Is that what you want, or is it not? Because basically, I think anywhere except right on them, you are not going to see them. There is no 100-yard visibility if you're on a slope. There's no need for Allied units to probably be behind the reverse slope. Well, that's not entirely true, because if you're far enough away, you can indeed bombard across a distance. The problem, of course, is if somebody goes to the base of your hill, unless you're right at the lip, and that is basically, and this is what I was trying to say, saying that what you have is something very much, I don't know if you guys can see it, but very much like my hill. You know, they're talking about 10% gradients, okay? That's something like a 60 to 80% gradient, okay? That is not the kind of sloping you're seeing here. Now, yes, there is possibility for further deformations, etc. But I just don't buy the sighting rules that are baked in. Now, of course, I cheated against even my sighting rules with the shot that happened here. That would not have been allowed. Okay. So I have at least one Allied gun. I have a gun here that can fire as well. I don't think I have any French guns that are unlimbered that can fire. These guys are all limbered. Why? I don't know, because I'm too far away to want to fire. But that's kind of stupid. They should be unlimbered, because if the Allies attack, these guns can't do anything until I get activated. Oops. Fire resulted in casualties in both cases, routing this unit. And now we're going to the reciprocal infantry fire. And the Allies get first pick. Where are they going to go first? It's a hard call. So here, I'll be trading shots with a big stack. If I can get a hit, I can reduce his column. Here, I'll be trading shots with these column units. They're not going to be able to hit me very well. I think I'm going to go with this shot first. I do have these disordered units back here, but I think these fire first, so I'm going to pick over there. I got to swap batteries, and then I'll come back and probably report on the effects of the whole fire, on the fire as a whole. Lied. Okay, first of all, I was looking at this shot on him. Actually, I've got this shot, which I'd have to take first if I want to take it. If I do that, the French then are going to be able to short circuit me and be ahead of me there, which is not something I want to do. So, much as I dislike it. I mean, I could skip this shot. It's a minimal shot. And then after I skip that shot, I skip a lot of French. Yeah, let me do that. Let me pick this unit, ignore this unit, not firing it. And because I've got a big skip between where my forces are, so I'll be able to get the edge in terms of where I center my units on the fire line. I think. Not absolutely certain. Okay, so at the end of the reciprocal fire, we've cleared everything out of here. These guys are disordered. It's kind of funny. I'm not used to this in tactical games of this nature. There is sort of, I've heard people say, hey, look, you know, there's a rock, paper, scissors element, you know, type of game. I'm seeing it more in terms of like, it's just deterministic. It's not really just rock, paper, scissors. I mean, that is part of it, but it's not the whole thing. These units are unable to affect these British units in front of them, basically. They are just so outclassed, no matter what I do. And you've got that kind of situation. Big stack of skirmishers, much, much better than small stack of skirmishers, right? It'll just melt it away. Very, very quickly. I'm seeing results occurring much faster than I expect them to in, I don't know, you know, most of the firepower games that I'm used to seeing. To the extent where it's like, geez, I shouldn't even be there, you know? I'm just so outclassed that I have no chance with certain units. And that is not the feeling I get with most games. Yes, you can look and you can say, wow, that's a much better unit. It's going to beat you. But it's usually not an immediate just, yeah, I'm just beaten. I can't melee him. I can't shoot him. I can't do anything. Or I can't, you know, come anywhere close to matching his shooting capabilities, etc. Now, of course, I'm deployed in column, which is pretty damn stupid. But I don't have a way of getting out of it either. Like, I engaged, I'm fucked. And that's the other thing, is that like little mistakes that you make, just they don't clean themselves up. They pretty much mean that unit's going to have to rout or take an additional round of fire or something to get itself out of there. That is going to put me onto the Allied command phase, and this is wearing me down. You know, there's more going on here than went on during all of Ney versus Wellington. It looks like it's about the same number of troops and everything, but it just feels much, much more intense right now. So I don't know. And I don't actually have that many units engaged. Like, it looks like I have a lot of stuff, but it's all skirmishers. And these big stacks, those are like a unit each, you know, just comparing it to the kind of fighting that's happening. That felt a lot more like what I expected out of a tactical firepower game. This is feeling really, really weird. Like, I can just say, yeah, that's just bad. You can't do that. You're going to lose. All right. The problem is I don't see that immediately, but right after the fact, I notice that, yeah, I would have had no chance. I don't mind if I notice right away, but the thing is, this game, this system is going to take some getting used to. I was hoping Ney versus Wellington would prepare me for this. It's not. It's not. The terrain, the situations in this one, even using pretty much the same damn system. Sure, there are some little differences, but I just was not ready for, you know, what has emerged from the situation around the Hugmont. Which, I don't know. I don't know if that's cool or not. I really can't tell. I'll try to enjoy it. All right, Allied command phase. I'm going to bring 3 more units into play. Now this is kind of weird. So I'm going to bring this 122 into play here. And I'm going to bring the 322 into play. And that's going to give me Hill, who I can put over there. He can go down and get this other 322, which is Hanoverians. And again, I can tell the difference when I'm looking at them, but I don't know if you can. You can catch it with the video. That also brings the 2-2 into play. And I'm also going to bring in, as a third thing, this cav unit to protect the flank. Because, yeah, the French cav isn't in place, but I see some of it's moving. And I don't want to be unsupported. But that's going to give me enough commanders. Now, I have Uxbridge. Uxbridge can move around and get me cav wherever I need them. So I'm less worried about that. I think Wellington's going to head his way back over when he gets a chance. And, of course, Orange is going over here to get those guys moving. But we got no charges, nothing else going on right now. So that's fine. I already recorded things over here. They don't end up costing me until I hit here. The cost for brigades that are active is relatively low, so I wouldn't worry too much about activating things if you're going to use them. But if you're not going to use them, it's a pretty iffy proposition to do so. And that's going to get me down to Allied Rally. I don't know, I got some disordered units I got to fix. And then the French get to do their movement again. Still have trouble with this. By the way, pretty dang. I spent I guess a couple hours hanging out, just being interviewed, which was kind of cool. For my dancing, not for work or anything like that. But it was a weird weird thing to have happen. So, I don't know. I'm kind of coming down off that. My focus with the French movement is going to be on what can I do with the skirmishers first, and then after I position them and work with them, it's so hard. You know, I want to break these things down into all skirmishers. I can't. They're not good enough. I don't know how to approach the skirmishers otherwise. They're so deadly in the terrain, comparatively. Like, I cannot face them. I feel like the troop quality, etc., is just slightly different in this. Everything's slightly different from Ney versus Wellington, and I'm having a really hard time getting the kind of set piece battle that I want to have between actual formed units. Now, I know that's not really what should be happening. I don't know. To me, what it feels like should be happening is the skirmishers should be protecting me against artillery fire more than anything else, allowing my units to deploy and then move in and attack. And they should not be able to form an impenetrable line the way that they are in these wooded areas. But I think the way the game gets around it is by these rules where you can disintegrate your decent units into entirely skirmisher units, or entirely stacks of skirmishers, and just, you know, conduct an assault essentially using skirmishers. It feels wrong. It may give the same effect. The only real problem with it is going to be I can't recover those decent units ever. Right? Now, I could have left like a strength point in each one so that they could recover, but yeah. Starting to fire off skirmishers, try to block view and allow me to approach the artillery. And this puts the artillery at an interesting position where they have to make a choice whether or not to unleash one of their valuable and very limited rounds of combat. There's no resupplies. I mean, conceivably, yes, there are. I could get ammo from another artillery piece or something. Oh, geez, I'm not going to remember what those rockets are. I know the artillery, the howitzers are like Bull, but the rockets I don't remember the name of, and they're shitty with high quality. But yeah, I'm going to move forward here, and that's a minimum range fire zone. Not for this. Oops, forgot to remove that disorder. That would have come off. I've got to. I think I have to shoot because otherwise I'm going to get picked off by them. But it's really kind of a painful situation, and I don't even have the, hey, there's a unit right behind me that I can, well, I'm not far enough away that it would matter anyway. I have a problem, and it may just be with this particular printing. You know, I mean, my particular set, or it may be with a lot of the TSR edition, or it may be across the board. But a lot of these units are unreadable because of like the print being too far to the left or whatever. You don't see this kind of error anywhere near as often, but in this period, whatever, you know, the offsets or whatever were bad, and they ended up, you know, the die cut didn't end up aligning with things as perfectly as it might have. It's really problematic, especially with the artillery, because there's no number for the number of guns except on one side. It tends to be on the reverse side of the units that the numbers are shifted over incorrectly or poorly, which kind of indicates the printing wasn't aligned properly, as opposed to the die cutting being the only problem. Which, you know, for the infantry units, I can flip them over. Uh-oh. Somebody got tweaked by the tape. Removable tape is not as sticky as it should be. but yeah, I mean, with most of the units, I can flip them over and see what they're going to be on the other side. But in terms of the artillery, the number of guns is not clear. Anyway, all right, so we pushed forward here. We may see something from this. And you can see advancing, trying to get around the flank here. I've got, what, 6th Corps now moving forward as well. There's some lights up there, so that'll help me towards getting at La Hassel. Ney is running over to take command of the right wing, or right flank. Napoleon is kicking around, I don't know what the hell, he's up here to try to activate yet another command. I'm finding myself not happy with the amount of effort I'm having to put into the maneuver. It's the same problem I have with, Labatt and Battles of the Age of Reason and a number of other of these games. I'm finding myself really having to work around and struggle with, I got to go through the terrain. Look at all the disruptions I'm getting from walking through hedgerows and shit like that. It gets worse when I have units in line formation, hitting the extended line and everything like that. It's making me miss minis for Napoleonics, because with minis, you got to worry about maneuvering and, your formations going through different stuff and everything, but it feels easier to cope with somehow than on the hex grid. One of the things I always like about a hex grid is it's supposed to make movement easier. Well, it does in Civil War games. It doesn't, and it actually seems to make it harder when you're dealing with stuff that's before that in era. Just maybe not everything. I know musket and pike felt pretty comfortable to me. The ancients felt pretty comfortable to me. But somehow when I'm dealing with either linear combat or Napoleonics, the systems that try to go into a lot of detail, they put a lot into the maneuvering side of things. And I find the systems and dealing with it on the hex grid to be particularly cumbersome. And I don't know. NBS isn't too bad. Viva l'Empereur isn't too bad. But again, those are at a higher level of abstraction. And, not dealing with whatever these actual units are here. So what are we at? We're at the possibility of Allied shock. And I'm probably not going to shock along here because I'm in linear formation. That's not particularly advantageous to me, especially with those disordered units. I'm probably better off just shooting them out of the way, although we may face some problems here. But over here, I'm thinking, wow, you going to throw all those big stacks of skirmishers against, my tough, heavy elite units? Maybe I throw my units in. I'm going to do a quick, I can do it on here, a quick calculation of what we're going to be looking at. Now, so we're looking at a 5 morale with 8 strength points. The 8 strength points isn't going to give me an advantage. I'm going to be disordered going through there. So 5 morale is the same as I'm looking at here. We take 2 away for the disordered, and now I'm at the -2 table without a good percentage. That doesn't sound good. I may just break those guys into skirmishers and hope to hold with the best I can and try to fall back with these guys, I guess. Here, though, seems like an excellent and powerful attack that I can make. So we'll do that one. With it is that I've walked outside my soft cover now. Oops. I didn't get disorganized by going over it, and there's no soft cover on the other side. It's to my advantage. It was to my advantage only, but now I'm kind of exposed to what? Uh-oh. There's another shot I could have taken there. I'll let him pick off my skirmisher. As it stands, and that's going to get me, I guess, to the next game turn, and I need to break again. I don't feel like I'm playing a hell of a lot, but on the other hand, I'm not breaking the way I have. I'm not taking as many breaks the way I have in some games, like Summerstorm or whatever. And it may just be that we're not all that engaged. But also, it's the sequence of play. I'm finding it very, like, I can't take off partway through, movement or something like that and just say, I can't cope. I feel like the design is more integrated in certain ways, that it's hard to walk away more easily. I guess that's what it comes down to. If I can't walk away, I won't. But yeah, I definitely feel like I'm just kind of blundering my way around in the game, though, as opposed to really having a good idea of how the mechanism should work. Yeah, an example is here. Again, I feel like these big formed units being faced by a mass of skirmishers, woods or not, should just be able to hop over and smack the shit out of them, but they're just not. The odds, would they be terrible? No, not really, but they're not good either. And I'm better off converting to skirmishers and trying to defend. Even with the leader there, he's only a 1-point bonus. Basically, if my 8 strength points made it in, if they all made it in, I would be at -2. I think there's cover there. I would be at -2 for the disorder for crossing the wall, another -2 for soft cover. So we're looking at -4. I would just fail. If these guys were out in the clear, I would be at -2 for disordering for walking over the wall. Yeah. Okay, maybe that's not a great idea anyway. I'd be at -2 for crossing the wall, and I'd be at 8 to 6, or maybe 7 to 6 if I got hit once, which is just 100%. It's not going to go well for me. The attacker is going to get knocked back more likely than not. So yeah, formed units just do not work in terrain in this. I guess we should get a little bit more in before it's time for raid. I got about 20 minutes, but I can go further than that. I'm feeling tired is the problem, but yeah, let's see whether or not I got more French units to throw. It's kind of a disadvantage, so it was really a disadvantage to throw units in here, but I felt like I had to do it. But I feel like I should be generating, my new commands when I can get the most out of them. But I got to worry about the leaders moving, out of range of their command radius, etc. However, I'm not sure that Napoleon wants to activate this unit yet. I might be able to hold off on that a little bit. I will need to throw some kind of reserve into play against the Prussians if I'm not careful. And I'm kind of worried because I'm doing things like sending the 6th Corps in. I don't have a lot of reserves here. The Allies look like they have quite a few more, although I've depopulated that area. And yeah, I'm just trying to avoid actually doing what I need to do. It feels so unnatural, though. Like, I make my decisions whether or not to activate something, and then way down here, they actually get to move. Like, I'm making my decision here. Way down here, after, you know, after the Allies are making the same kind of decisions, I make my decisions as to where they actually move and where the leaders position themselves. It's just like all this decision making is happening at such disparate times in the turn. That also is throwing kind of a wrench into how my thinking works. Oh, the French skirmishers are running away. They got scared away during the Allied turn. Charging over here. And we got units that should be disordered because they don't look like they're facing the right way because I bumped them. Yeah. You could be a real stickler in this game. You really could. Got a couple of units that are still disordered here. For the most part, well, we got some units that were routed that have recovered. They have leaders on them. And now it's time for the Allies to do their movement. And again, I think the biggest thing is converting these. But I'll have to look. And what the impact shock there. I don't see these guys going in, you know. For the two guard units into big stacks, I've got this 2-1-1 here. This is something I was worrying about and I didn't say anything about yet. Which is, I don't know, I don't think there's any of the 2-1-1 left. This leaves me in an interesting position. Why is there none left? Yeah, because they've all turned into skirmishers. Can I declare that they've stopped being committed at this point? I don't know. It's of some value to have the leader running around and everything. But again, it's not clear that the leader's supposed to come off. I have no idea how you would record that units are activated if, like, or deactivated if you left the unit if you left the leader on the board, though. But I also feel like, well, I no longer have that formed unit. Shouldn't I be able to do something? You know, shouldn't I be able to say it no longer exists? I can take it away from there. It doesn't really make sense because they're all there. But, you know, they're all in that huge skirmisher piles. But yeah, I don't have that unit. What if I had kept one strength point and snuck that away and deactivated with that one strength point? I don't know. I'm going to leave it as it is because I think by any reasonable stretch of the imagination, they are committed up here. They just don't exist as a formation, though, anymore. I don't know. I don't know what to do. Yeah, trying to figure out. God, this game is a pain to understand, cope with, whatever. So Orange heading over here to command those Dutch units and get them slamming up into the French. I got the Cav trying to trickle its way through these King German Legion there, the kind of purpley colored stuff. I sent Hill back here to activate this if he wants to, but these are Hanoverian landwear. I really don't want them in the fight if I can help it. But I may need them, right? I would have liked to have thrown Wellington further over. Ney is further over. But I actually think that I want to move some of the units here up onto the ridge line in case things break up there. Just so that I have that advantage. And I don't have any command over here. So there's not much I can do. Didn't activate anything. I'm not allowed to do that at this point. And that's going to put me, I guess, to the French shock. Is there any shock that is likely to be happening? Yeah, I got a lot of thoughts here. These disordered guys, they were not a good choice. Here, huge masses of skirmishers against each other, not a good option for shock. So what do I have left? I have a unit in line It would be coming through soft cover. That's not particularly good. Or coming at another unit in line, which might not be so bad. I would be badly out-moraled. I have an effectiveness of 3. So I guess we're just going to shoot each other. I'm really not happy with what's happening here. And that means it's artillery time. If I have no shocks I want to make. So again, odd even. The French are going to get their first shot. I've got to really kind of zone out on stuff, see if I have any artillery available. Got some there. Got some there. And then compare it to where the Allied artillery is. Obviously, I've got one there. I think that, and there. So, you know, where do I want to get my first shot? I could get an attack on the artillery there, which might give me the jump, right? It might not be too bad a choice. On the other hand, same situation as here. And I've moved these guns up so that they're closer. Still think they wouldn't be able to see, but again, the upper crest is here. I have my struggles with the line of sight in this one, and you know, it's fine by my line of sight rolls, unlike the other situation where I fired where I shouldn't have been able to. It's not fine, I think, by the games. I think if you are anywhere except right adjacent to the hill, it's basically assuming that each of these elevation drops is, you know, not a towering cliff, but something like my yard, which just doesn't feel right. Of course, it's the only time that you pay for going up slope. So, you know, maybe, but that's not my impression of how the Waterloo battlefield is or was. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe these ridge lines are a lot steeper than I expect. Basically, what the game is kind of saying is that, if you're following its line of sight rules, is that it really is kind of a layer cake. Like the actual terrain is almost a layer cake situation. I find that hard to believe. Especially since you have the descending slope rule elsewhere. Right? It's like the calculation for between levels is not in accordance with the descending slope rule. I think you have to go with one or the other. You know, it's either a bunch of kind of very plateau-y type formations where you could probably see over the ridge. And the description is, you know, with Wellington lining up behind the ridge line and lying down, having to lie his troops down so that they wouldn't get shot, right? That, to me, indicates much gentler slopes than this game represents when you're looking at the kind of line of sight that the base system uses. A cool impact on my first fire, and now I got to find another fire. Okay, here's something interesting. There's a little ditch here. I think I actually can shoot over their heads, because you're only a half elevation between. So that little ditch is a big deal. I can actually see over that. How about that? This shot actually was successful in wiping out the gun crew. That means that gun is silenced. Well, for a while. Put him here. I don't know. And yeah, so that was a very effective shot. But now, obviously, the Allies have two choices. They could, I got no guns over here. My first gun of importance, well, I only have one. Okay. This gun also took out a gun crew. And those British artillery, or those Allied artillery on the defensive up where they are, seems like maybe not such a great idea. I thought it would be cool. It knocked out a couple of guns. This one firing is interesting. Obviously, I have a line of sight against these guys. They're just there. But I've got a question about this. What I've got here is what is essentially, I think, supposed to be a sunken road here. And this creates all kind of more issues for me, because it appears to be sunken in relation to that. Now, if it's a hedge line, maybe I can see, maybe I can't, but I feel like no matter what interpretation you put on this, I can't even see this thing. So I think I'm firing at skirmishers just because clearing them out seems important. I'm in a hurry to get out of here or get through here. And if I don't fire, I hate wasting ammo. This is not a short game, right? I could fire an artillery piece multiple times in a turn, you know, like reasonably 2 or 3 times, depending on what's going on. As the attacker, I'm probably not going to fire it more than once per turn, though. And I think I just have to, you know, buck up and say, I'll take a shitty shot, and that's against soft cover. It's a 6 medium. It's a fucking class 3. But on a 5 or a 6, I get a hit. Ooh, I forgot to do those hits against, those artillery crews actually count for morale. And we managed to plug one of the skirmishers, which will cause the other one to make a morale check. Not the formed units, they don't worry. Ooh, put me on the reciprocal infantry. The Allies get first shot. What's important to them? Well, clearly not over here. Although, maybe here, right? On the other hand, see, if I fire here, the French are almost certainly going to go over to this side. But if I fire on this side, they might still get an edge by firing up here. And then, of course, there's the question of, hey, who's further on the line? Are these guys further to the left? Like, this guy is the furthest to the left, no question. But then where do I go? Do I go to this guy? It feels to me like I go like this, and then like this, and then like this, or something like that. Again, it's not well defined. It's expecting you to be in absolute perfect linear formation to be able to use the rules exactly as written. So you're going to have to kind of fudge things and decide, you know, hey, what's the order of the line going to be? I'm going to go with whatever's easiest for me, which is this. But, yeah, take it how you like. You know, if it was double... If it was a little bit more extreme than it is, it would be really painful for me to make a decision on. But here, I feel like I kind of can. See, I will get short-circuited if I go with this shot first, and even if I break it. So I guess I'll go over here, because being short-circuited sucks. As our two little lines work closer. I actually think this is the most accurate definition of this line. So I'm going to go with that. And so these skirmisher engagements here, those aren't going to do much. Yeah, it's possible you might get a rout. We got one here, but if you get a hit and you don't get a rout, it just sort of weakens them a little bit. So yeah, they're not gonna move much. A little bit changed over here. We did a hit there. Here we got to hit the disordered this unit, collapsing the extended line for good or ill. Doesn't really matter. Disordered unit, long range unit, it's all the same shit. It's firing on the shit table. And then a plink out here because there's nothing to shoot at here. These are just guns. Managed to disorder that unit. I think I might have the numbers right. So we're at like 320 for the French and right around, well, 326 and 301 for the Allied Army. The Allied Army doesn't get a morale boost when the Prussians come on. The Prussians get their own morale, but feels like maybe they should. I don't know. On the other hand, that would, I don't know, it may already be baked in, whatever. So that's going to put us at the Allied command phase, see if we pull more forces in their rally, and then the French get to do their movement. For all the effort that I put into movement, I feel like I get very little results out of it, right? And that's really the issue, I think. Like, in some games, maneuver is really, really important. Here it's just really difficult. It's painful to do. Yes, you can position yourself horribly, but that has less to do with all the intricacies of like trying to move units. Now that may change when I get the cav into play or whatever. It's time for me to go down and play some raid. I feel kind of happy that I got a little bit more done though. And played with my decent glasses on, and boy do they help. I mean, I can see the numbers from, you know, from here, right? You can't see them on the camera. I have to zoom in to see them, but I can see them for the most part just looking. I had to get another pair of glasses so I can wear these regularly. Wednesday morning, and kind of grayish and everything. It's supposed to rain every day this week. I don't know, you know, maybe not across the whole day, but luckily for me, I think I got enough food to last me. I'm a little short on some things. All right, so let's start with the Allied command phase. Try to see what there is that I want to get moving. 3 more brigades into play. Walsh is bringing these Dutch in, and then more Dutch over here. Wellington is able to command them. This is more a housekeeping task. I'm just going to move them up to the ridge and then decommission them, you know, after I position them. I probably don't really need to do it, but it's kind of what Wellington was planning on doing. I figure these are close enough. I'm going to have to pay a morale to move them when it comes to here, but then I can decommission them after that and pull them off. These guys, though, are going to come in as part of that outflank. I'm looking. I got one cav unit here. Do I have another cav somewhere I want to throw into play? Where the hell's Uxbridge? I forget about him because I haven't been using him. I lost track of where he is. I'm just worried I don't have enough cav heading this way. When I have things like this, I could send in that direction. The rally's out of the way. There wasn't much. Mainly this guy routing. I had a disorder or something. I don't see a hell of a lot, though. And, you know, after working so hard, figuring out, and I did decide to bring in another cav. Uxbridge is here. I don't know what's up. But now it just feels so weird not to be moving those units that I've been like defining and figuring out about. Not after the rally. The rally feels like it happens at the end of the turn. It's that the command phase happens at that same time, at the end of the turn, essentially not at the beginning. You don't find things in command and then move them, and it's just kind of funky. A perspective change, right? Like I'm here looking at all of these, figuring out what I'm going to do with them, why I want to put units in command and everything. And then I immediately have to do this transition and switch hats without having taken advantage of those decisions I was making. And now later on, after I make the same decisions with the French, I'm going to come in and have to try to implement the things that I'm thinking about with the Allies. This is something that feels like it's much, much worse in solo play than in opposed play. Normally, I'm kind of like, if there's a lot of context switches and stuff. But this is a particular one where, yeah, maybe I'll forget what I meant to do with a unit during my opponent's turn, but I'm a lot more likely to forget when I'm switching hats. Still a little too detailed for this point in the game. I'm likely going to load this one up very after this turn. Got some infantry moving in now that the skirmishers have been cleared away in line to try to challenge this unit. Bringing some cav around to support because there's British cav back there, and yeah, don't want to have unsupported infantry up there. Got a couple of artillery units. I don't know quite what to do with them. I think the best thing is to pound at the, well, obviously there's a gun there, but I think that gun's been stripped of its crew. Yeah. So I think the best thing might be to position myself for artillery support at those skirmishers. I've got another infantry unit here. The infantry is so useless against the skirmishers, I'm kind of not sure I want to even bring them into play. Like, if I can't turn the infantry into skirmishers, it can't really fight them in this stuff. That even just that soft cover. But at long range, I'm not really any worse. Like, if we look here, long range crap at line, man, no, that hits on a 5 or 6, whereas trying to hit at long range at even just skirmishers hits on a 6. So yeah, I don't really want to deploy my infantry against those. And plus, formed units getting worn down by skirmishers is a big deal. Skirmishers, okay, if they're in a big hex, the whole hex might rout. But, like this guy. But if they're not, it's kind of not a big deal to pick one off here and there. It doesn't degrade, like it degrades the overall number of strength points, but it doesn't degrade the real capacity of like a group of skirmishers to operate. My answer is to send the infantry, which really can't do shit against them, off on its own. And unlimbering my guns, where they're too far away to be picked off by skirmishers. I don't think, yeah, you know what? I don't think this big unit is gonna. I'll stick with this. I blew hot and cold. Unlimbering my guns to fire at the skirmishers because guns are just better than everything if they can, like, if they can get themselves safely into place where they can shoot. They're especially good against regular infantry, but I'm not facing regular infantry, and I really do want to take the Huguenot quickly so that I can, pursue this battle more quickly. This is the biggest thing in my way. What I need to do is pump more skirmishers in. I do have another light unit here. When I get to a command and control phase, that'll happen. These poor guys are running away, and I'm not in range to do the grand tactical movement or whatever, so I'm sending like a cav leader off to go try to rally them. I think 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh shit. He'd be better off moving to like here. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, because next time he gets to move, he'll get to move double. Because these things are going to rout again, and they're going to move 6. That's fine. But I'll be able to move 12 at that point. But it's like trying to catch your routers is really hard in this game. Nate versus Wellington, it was a lot easier, but there's more room to run away in here. Still working my way down. I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing really. So then I stopped pawing through the artillery. Like, I've got these units, they look just the same as anything else on top. I'm putting the ammo on top of the artillery that no longer has a gun crew. Just to remind me, hey, that thing's not really dangerous. I can't even go spike the guns or anything. You know, I mean, there's not, like, moving into that hex is not going to change my capabilities. Just decide, screw it, take them off the board, and yeah, but you can't really do that either because I could lose guns somewhere else and move a crew to them. I don't know. I guess this is where we're at. Can't really shift units without attracting fire, and that's something I don't really want to do. So keeping the skirmisher fire going here for whatever it's worth. We're at the losing end of it, but some artillery units might be able to cause additional casualties and give us a little bit of an edge. Skirmishers here fairly evenly matched. Continuing on, I've got a brigade here that I don't know what the hell to do with. It's got the light unit that I want to create more skirmishers with to throw into the meat grinder, but it's the only light unit I have left up here. And then I've got like this whole command structure, some of which is over here. It's the 192 that was moving up to face those, and I just decided against it. I don't have a really good answer for them. Meanwhile, I'm moving more of Second Corps, you see coming up here, to try to overwhelm forces there. I've moved on top of the guns. Some more Second Corps here. First Corps moving into place here. Not all of it, just, you know, one brigade. I decided not to unleash everything everywhere. Although, honestly, that might actually not be a bad idea because the Allies don't have a line, you know, don't have these units in command yet, but they'll be able to throw them into command easily enough. I'm just not that concerned about, like, trying to put pressure everywhere. Ney is moving over here in intention to clear the area near La Haye. But again, there's skirmishers there. I don't know. I don't see any lights. I could detach a lot of strength points to use as skirmishers. And those don't really hurt me. If they end up, you know, getting the advantage, then I can put them back in the units where I can to give me some morale with those units. Because the actual units just become weaker when they detach their skirmishers. So you don't want to fight without the skirmishers attached. I have a lot of cav here. The intention with this is going to be, as with this, is going to be to protect that flank, but also mainly to try to delay the Prussians when they start to come, I guess. I've got a line of 6th Corps making its way into place here. Kellerman, who's running over here, it's okay that he is. This is part of his command down here, so I probably want to activate them and use them for something. I don't know. It's kind of weird, like this is 3rd Corps, not 3rd Cavalry, so it's not part of him. I don't know who's gonna... There is no 3rd Corps anywhere. There's a little bit more of 6th Corps here. I'm keeping it in reserve, not committing it. Basically what I'm expecting is I'm not counting on being flung back, right? So, at least not anytime soon. So I'm like, well, if I don't have room for these troops, I don't just want to throw them into the column. But I figure 6th Corps can take its place on the end of the line there. I've got more troops than I can fit, but not, you know, part of that's because I got this big gap here. I don't know what the hell to do with, you know. All right. That's going to put it on the Allied shock phase, and this is kind of interesting. Let's talk about it for a moment. I'm moving up in line against... That unit is facing the wrong way. I'm moving up in line against the Allied unit. He got bumped when I moved on top of the artillery with this piece. I'm moving up in line against Allied columns, and that kind of, I think, forces the columns to try to attack, to try to bust through on the shock combat table, because they're going to lose the firepower exchange. Another option would be to change formation. Either one of these is going to create a fire issue, and the problem with these is they have four points on them, and if I convert them into line, they're going to turn into an extended line, which is just no good. The British linear formation sucks compared to the French because it has to extend more quickly. That doesn't feel right, but it makes them worse at fire combat, and it makes them much, much worse at everything else in the game. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure I buy that. That the the particular scale and the choices used are really like causing the English to use more French type of shock tactics because they can't hold a line because of the stupid fucking extended line rules. Of which I found myself, oh look, there was a line here. Must have been disordered, and I plucked the disorder off. That probably just happened. Trying to figure out if the French would have moved differently. Like, again, these extended line rolls, along with the way the orders interleave and everything, it's really hard to remember to check, hey, is that something that should extend just because it's recovering from disorder? I really wish the disorder stayed, like the extended line stayed in extended line when it was disordered. That would be worse of a bone in some ways, but it's impossible to check. So like now, hey, did you really want to march up here in line? Sure, whatever. Although I don't know if the answer is actually yes, but I've got to, everywhere I've got to check that. So obviously this isn't going to shock if it's like that, but I might have some elsewhere. This is another such case. I remember finding the disorder marker there a little late during the French turn. Fine. We'll put that in place, whatever. It doesn't feel at all accurate or anything that like these units undisorder in the midst after the French move, but I don't know what else to do. I really don't. I also am not sure that I can move on top of these guns. I'm not sure that the line could move on top of them. I guess it can, yeah, you're allowed to stack. You're not ever allowed to stack with enemy units. What do I do with those guns that are sticking around? I don't know. I really want to get them off the map. Like, it feels like I should spike the guns once I move on to them. I'm just going to make shit up. I'm just going to make shit up because this is just too ridiculous. That would not cause a morale loss per se. But I am going to put it here as guns that have been captured, whatever, in the course of the battle. At the very least, they should be spiked. They don't count against the army morale, so they're not going to demoralize the army, but they do count against the totals at the end of the game, and I don't have a good way to record that, except just to pile them up over there. They're not part of this isn't part of the rules, but I just can't cope with it. I'm having to make shit up to make things work. Am I missing something? Maybe. I don't know. The problem for the Brits, I kind of want to launch a melee attack here, but I'd get 2 line fires at me. Those would be on this column. I might just disintegrate if I do that, and I'm certainly not going to have the advantage, so I'm better off standing there and either converting to line and taking, well, the shot will blow me away anyway, either way. But during my next movement, converting to line, or just sit there and exchange fire as at a disadvantage because I did not deploy the line quickly enough. Either way, I'm going to be in trouble, but I feel like I'm in more trouble if I try to shock attack. So we're not going to have a shock attack there, which means we're at the game turn end phase because I don't want to do shocks anywhere else. We're going to shift this here and we're going to load it up. Like, I think the rules as written are I could not move into that artillery hex. It's just blocking me. And that is just unacceptable from my point of view. But maybe again, I'm missing something. It's got no defensive capability. Maybe I had to wait until shock combat to do that. I don't know. It just feels unreasonable. Like there's no one guarding it anymore. It's indefensible, and I feel like I have to make shit up. All right, let's end this up.